our lives at the crossroads. But first, let's be mindful of the song, O Holy One. And let's have a moment of silence. Shake it. Well, I wanted to have music because that's how I program this Satsang. But we see I ain't doing nothing here, right? I don't want to bash my position or my condition, but that's the way it is. Of course, as Damo Sanatana. Before I get started and giving you some food, I really need to tell the truth, and God grant me to tell the truth today. My life has been a turmoil, and I'm not going to spend too much talking about myself, but I have to show you the weather conditions that prevail or have prevailed in my life for the past 5 years. At one time, I just got sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I continually prayed to change my life, because when I looked at everyone and everything around me, I saw that everyone was developing and having a life, and I wasn't. Well, I was out there getting high, and being a product of the 60s, was trying to be happy. I thought that I could make things happen, and my best thinking got me into a recovery home. Or maybe it was the grace that got me into the recovery home. I got into the recovery home, and I went in there with a lady. She was living with me at the time, and both of us said we were going to stick it out together and get clean, but I knew that she had a history of going in and coming out. And that's why I decided that those types of agencies weren't for me. But I went on and surrendered and did that. And for 30 days, I had been clean longer than I've ever been in 30-something odd years. So, that produced like pretty good wreckage, in my life. But I don't want to go into any details about that. I'm just trying to lead up to the point where after I left that recovery home, I went to a halfway house facility. And the halfway house, one thing that I heard that was really profound, and it said that in doing the AA, NA steps, 12 steps, you're dealing with the tip of the iceberg. So, I figured, well, okay, well, I need to go on and deal with that tip of the iceberg and stop that aspect of my life. I didn't realize that there were deeper things that caused me, I didn't realize what it was that caused me to want to escape my pain. I was heartbroken. So what I did was I talked to a friend of mine, and he said, he gave me a little book on Aquarian people of the New Age. I said, oh, that's really nice. That's really hot stuff. And he said, well, if you want to know more about it, and it wasn't related to the house, but he said, if you want to know more about it, go see Bhagwan. I said, Bhagwan? What's a Bhagwan? And he said, they're right around the corner for you at the funeral parlor. At the funeral parlor? Well, before that, I had prayed real hard every day to get into my life, to see what's deeper than the tip of that iceberg. And I really feel that my prayers was answered when I was directed to the House of Ra. I went to the House of Ra, and I started, it took me a while to come around, but I just kept coming, and I saw that this was something good for me. And so when I sat on my pillow in that recovery home, because I started sitting way back then, when I sat there, I would have thoughts of, why don't you want to know the truth about yourself? Why don't you want to really go up? Why don't you go deep? And darned if after I got into the house, I really learned what life was really all about, and it ain't easy. It really ain't easy. And I'm going to say one more thing. There was a flurry right after that, right after I got myself straight. I guess I got myself straight in time enough to bury my mother and bury my grandmother and take care of those responsibilities. Any other way, I would not have been able to. Any other way, I would not have been able to. And the house was there for me. Then I think about my present situation. Darn, don't I have enough? Here I'm faced with all types of different things that are affecting my life, where all the things that I've been attached to are dissolving. They're going away. Everything that I identify with, I don't have my mother, grandmother, my family like that anymore, but I had the house, and that's in jeopardy. That might dissolve. But that's life, and that's the way it is. My job dissolve. A whole bunch of things dissolve. So, should I get mad? Should I be mad? No, I said in the Kula group, I lied. I'm not mad. Because I didn't holler at nobody. I didn't holler, and I didn't have no confrontations except for this guy who I was trying to get out my apartment. And so, as it turned out, I discovered that I was mad. I was mad at the absent other. So I just want to read this to you that brings to my mind what I have felt that I need to resonate and come in contact with, and that's accept life on life's terms. And that's from the Anger Management book. The only antidote for healing the spiritual agony of our abstract cosmic anger is to develop the ability to adapt to reality, to accept life's terms and learn to cope with its crisis. Life is both good and bad experiences of pain and pleasure. As Dhammo Sanatana. That's the way life is. Our vicissitudes provides us with opportunity to grow. When something terrible happens, one should never flee into denial or escape into self-pity. One has to go through it. One has to go through it. I have to go through it. And now when I talk about I'm talking about we. Because not only does it have to be a crisis situation, you can win $1 million and you can still have the same type of problem. It doesn't matter. It's the consistency of our practice that'll take us, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. So never escape, never try to dodge life, Spinoza says. Do not get angry, do not cry. Simply understand, As Dhammo Sanatana. Try to avoid the challenges of life. Life is what keeps so many people juvenile. Boy, I've been juvenile for a long time. Living requires courage. What does that look like? Anybody can exist, but existence is not the same as living. Living only occurs within the context of courage, and courage means going into the unknown in spite of your fears, in spite of your suffering. Courage does not mean fearlessness. You can be scared. I'm scared. Fearlessness happens when you go on being courageous and more courageous. It is the ultimate outcome of courage. The fears and sufferings are there. But if you go on accepting the challenges of life, adapting to its reality, slowly and slowly, the fear and suffering disappears. The experience of the joy that the unknown brings, the thrill and adventure of life makes you strong enough to go forward. And that's from the Master. I'd like to hear Everything Must Change by Walter Jackson. The Master is responsible for all this.
Bad stuff on it.
It's not bad. It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. And the sooner I grow up, the sooner I'll be able to accept life as the Master does. And I'll definitely get into that in a minute.
Everything must change. Nothing stays the same. Everyone will change. No one stays the same. The young become the old. 'cause that's the way of time. Oh, nothing and no one goes unchanged. There are not many things in life you can be sure of, except rain comes from the clouds, sun lights up the sky, and the hummingbirds do fly. Winter turns to spring. A wounded heart will heal, but never much too soon. Yes, everything must change. The young become the old, and mysteries do unfold, 'cause that's the way of time. Nothing and no one goes unchanged. There are not many things in life you can be sure of, except the rain comes from the clouds, sun lights up the sky, and hummingbirds do fly. Rain comes from the clouds, and sun lights up the sky, and hummingbirds do fly. Rain comes from the clouds, the sun lights up the sky, and music makes me cry. Everything must change.
We all have crossroads. If not now, later. My response was to look up some spiritual food so I can give to you, the sun god, that you probably already know. From Metu. Spiritual growth only takes place when we are challenged to embrace the truth. And it runs into opposition from our conditioning. For example, from the narrow view, doing the right thing will cause me losses. This type of scenario is a crossroads situation. For me, moment-to-moment attention kicked off by formal and open-eye meditation that the Master has engaged us with lines up with the ancient Kamichian tradition. Metu Netu, becoming awake by day. As known by the ancient Kamichians, besides giving us the insight and clarity of perception to transcend the host of false beliefs, the 5 perversions, this mode provides the force and vitality needed for the successful carrying out of our need. This is especially needed at the crossroads situations. Ma'at has several denotations in the everyday language of the Kemetic peoples. Straight, real, unalterable, it is the law, hath never been altered since the time of Alsar. Upright, righteous, and steadfastness, consistent in our practice, in our meditations. In the Kemetic tradition, a person cannot claim he/she is living truth if he/she has not been consistent in the observation of spiritual laws, especially at each and every crossroad. Hence, practice honesty, morality. It is said, today as yesterday, tomorrow as today is truth. Metu Netu. If we have the ability to achieve our goal, success depends on living truth at the crossroads, which is a spiritual mechanism for transcending our anti-spiritual conditioning. With that, I want to go to the next song, and that's Spiritual Warriors, House of Ra.
Yeah.
Play it loud.
Here's the path, y'all, of the warrior. Check it out. I ain't going out like a punk in the end. Though life is really kicking my behind once again. I lose the will to fight and feel like I might run like a punk through the shadows of the night. Profound fear defines every move that I make. From the breath that I take, the thoughts my mind generates. Change is mandatory in this fight to life. What we feel is on the other side of mundane life. Numbs like cocaine, right? We abuse the path we choose and waste time, but when time's up, what will we do? Wallow in self-regret and die a meaningless death. In conclusion to a frivolous existence, what's the business? The business is moving through the witnesses. The war is on, the front line is silent. Will you retreat in the midst of the heat, facing defeat? Forsake God in the master when things are looking bleak, or will you rise to the occasion? With grace that's amazing, perish in the flames, ruminate. Rage from the cage, take the story to a new page. Game to a new phase, awareness to the next stage. Focus your internal gaze on God and the infinite power. Set it off, enforce a code of discipline too rugged for the soft, for the weak at heart. From hell, set yourself apart. That's where the fit drops, is where the true path starts. So don't stop, y'all. Keep moving on. It's the path of the warrior. We gotta stand strong on this battlefield. With our shield, the sword, the master, the dharma, and faith in the Lord. Don't stop, y'all. Keep moving on. It's the path of the warrior. We gotta stand strong on the battlefield. With our shield, the sword, the master, the dharma, and faith in the Lord. The journey we embark upon is ultimate. Complete dedication is prerequisite. It's hectic when you're skeptic, so stand firm like a warrior. Let that fire burn your egos. Control your life for long enough. The skies turn. Lesson learned among fools who persecute you. Family members fight for your attention while they scorn you and made a mockery of the life you choose. Don't let them win and you lose. No matter what you do, the Lord is with you. And though friends will try to make you stray from your way, hold no malice when they speak, for they know not what they say is ignorance. They're suffering when it's so strong like yours. Once upon a time that they don't even know what's wrong. And if you make it to the fruit, don't forget those in bondage. Return to help us find a way to freedom. Make a promise, cause we need enlightened souls in this living hell. For all attempts at happiness to consolation fail. Tell these facts are like a Mack truck, coming full speed, head on, smacking you right in the heart of your lust and greed. Attachment and vanity, mundane life insanity. Anger brings tendencies of violence past profanity. So put it to a cease, put your being at peace. Follow your instructions, end of discussion. That's the end of discussion. It's the path of the warriors. So yo, don't stop y'all, keep it moving on. It's the path of the warrior, we gotta stand strong on this battlefield. With our shield and sword, the master, the dawn, and faith in the Lord. Don't stop y'all, keep it moving on. It's the path of the warrior, we gotta stand strong on this battlefield. With our shield and sword, the master, the dawn, and faith in the Lord. Don't stop y'all, keep it moving on. It's the path of the warrior, we gotta stand strong on this battlefield. With our shield and sword, the master, the dawn, and faith in the Lord. Don't stop y'all, keep it moving on. It's the path of the warrior, we gotta stand strong on this battlefield. With our shield and sword, the master, the dawn, and faith in the Lord. House of Rock. Don't stop, y'all. Keep moving on. Number one. Yo, living. Master. Speak.
I used to always say, this is not a path for the coward. And there's many places for you where you don't have to wage no war with yourself. You don't have to deal with your weakness. You don't have to fight with your shortcomings. Mine. There's many places for you to do that. You can just read some books, you understand? Learn a few quotes, donate a few dollars, fine. But not on this. This path is a path for spiritual warriors.
Don't stop, y'all. Keep it moving on. It's the path of the warrior. We gotta stand strong on the battlefield. With our shield and sword, the master, the dawn, and faith in the Lord. Don't stop, y'all. Keep it moving on. It's the path of the warrior. We gotta stand strong on the battlefield. With our shield and sword, the master, the dawn, and faith in the Lord. Don't stop, y'all. Keep it moving on. It's the path of the warrior. We gotta stand strong on the battlefield. With our shield and sword, the master, the dawn, and faith in the Lord.
Okay. So that brings me to the fruits of my life's revelation at the crossroads. But now when I say I, even though I do not totally feel that all of us are one, I want to feel that we are all one. So when I talk about I'm talking about us. But I don't want to be presumptuous and say we. What is it to have the felt experience of reality as it truly is and not as I imagine it to be based on? The erroneous domestication of the world as it is, as it has presented itself from birth to present. Hence, the presence of my master introduced me to the idea that the reality that I've been experiencing is but an illusion, born out of this world that I have descended into it for the purposes of remembering who I really am. He is showing me that honesty with oneself that will dispel the delusion of my egoic reality. My guru is helping in the aiding of my karmic debts being paid. I've learned that whatever I do, I must do in the name of my master. So I said, what does that look like? What does that look like to have our spiritual path first and all of the rest of our life as incidental things? those things that we think or call our main things, we should have them in the background. So, what does it look like to live first a spiritual life, and everything else in your life is incidental? Well, so I got some food from Path of Masters, surrender. For instance, I must do only what I think my master will approve of. When I approach a task or proposed act, I will remember that it is to be done in the name of the master. I must fix my mind on the master, and then in love and devotion, I will do the work as genuine service to the master in his name. I must remember that nothing is my own. All belongs to the master because I have dedicated all to the master, even my mind and my body, as well as my property. So I must use them all as if I were using the property of another, and use them exactly as I believe the owner would like to have him use them. Everything then is used only in the service of the master. Even the eating of one's own food is to be done as an act of service to the master. The master holds title to all I own. Thus, I use what I have in my possession as my master's property. Having descended down into this condition that I find myself in, I do not really know how to use the possessions I have, mind, body, and property. Like a child, I make mistakes. Like a loving mother, the master will prevent these mistakes, keeping us away from creating more karma, as long as we embrace the master. Path of the master. All this means that the big I must be eliminated from the disciple's innermost thought. Humility and love take its place. Perfect devotion to the Guru will lead me into the light. The supreme advantage in following the Guru is that I will never make mistakes, for he knows what is best and correct in every possible emergency. In no sense is the personal liberty of a disciple ever circumscribed or limited by surrender to the Guru. The disciple is freer than ever before. He has no fear of anything. He goes where he pleases, and he does what he likes with the most perfect assurance when he surrenders to the master. Path of the Masters, 225. Maya. The chief duties of the master is a unique service assigned to them, because there is no other way that human souls can escape from this prison house of Maya. He connects us with the audible life stream. Path of the Masters, 380. The amazing love which so characterized the life of Jesus is well emphasized in Pascal's Mystère de Jesus. I have loved thee more than thou hast loved thy defilements, said Christ to Pascal. Truly, this sort of love is characteristic of the genuine master. If the masters did not love us better than we love our defilements, there would be a little hope for any of us. This love of the master which passes all human understanding. Finally, when Jesus was undergoing his long fast, he bravely resisted temptation. He must never waver or weaken in his love or his loyalty. That's the responsibility of the master. And that's the responsibility that we are trying to assume as real human beings. So my considerations came up out of this revelation. What is the purpose for why illusion exists? To lead us to our truth. God is our truth. 2, my desire is in remembering of myself. 3, having a felt sense of unification with God and everything within his contextual field of creation. Honesty is a magnet that attracts life, which is just another word for God. The person who honestly seeks, honestly receives. Life will not lie to itself. Can we have another little song real quick? Just the next one on the list.
That's the way it is. This is the Radasi division. This is the temple of God. We are all sons and daughters. To be is to be a manifestation of God. How else can you be? Acha. Satsang, total knowledge and wisdom, total wisdom. At no time have you ever been separate from God. How is that possible? Simply see that the happiness that you have been seeking is already and always have been the case. Absolute infiniteness. Acha. The House of Ra Africa, we want to make available to African humanity, perhaps sister for the first time in many, many thousands of years, an authentic source of spirituality that has been created by our ancient ancestors, that we have been cut off from due to slavery, and now we need to be reconnected to that. You are already the sons and daughters of God. That is always already the case. It is not something that you become. How do you become that which you already are? It is simply awakening. Waking up. Absolute infiniteness. all sons and daughters of God. To be is to be a manifestation of God. How else can you be?
Structure of God. Total knowledge and wisdom. Totalness. This is the Nagaland divinity. This is the temple of God.
Achara.
Thank you. Just to hear the Master's voice. Being in the presence of our living Master and being here in this moment is speeding up the process for why we are here. We have been brought within the proximity of our Master and has accepted his teachings, and in doing so, we accept our own wisdom. When we do not accept some part of his teachings, we do not see our own wisdom. When we do accept his teachings, we do accept our wisdom. But in either case, we will have been led back to our own wisdom. We can go the long way, or we can go the short way. Let us thank ourselves for this experience, because it has brought us back to clarity. One point, that is, the highest authority lies within us. Each of us has the ability to access eternal wisdom. It is God's grace that is inspiring us all the time. It is not through special dispensation, but is always the case. We are always in continual communion with God. We may consciously experience this whenever we choose, as long as we stay in the moment, the present, the now. The idea of being holy is the remembering of the sum of our parts. The presence of God moves through our Master and through us. We must solely listen to his direction, for we do not have the discernment to navigate through life's illusions, this Maya. Our perfect Master is our light to guide us from the pitfalls that would hold us back. God comes into our lives in real and present ways. We do not have to believe this. All we have to do is simply know. We know that the Master presents these things to us, and it will ring true, and that we will be reunited with our innermost wisdom, the self who I am. Later on, I wrote a whole 12-page commentary on this, but I just did want to share with you just a couple of things, and and this is from the Communion with God CD, the 10 illusions or cultural conditioning. The biggest of all illusions is need exists. God has an agenda. Failure exists. The outcome of life is in doubt. Disunity exists. I am separate from God. Insufficiency exists. There's not enough. Requirement exists. There's something I have to do. Judgment exists. If I do not, I'll be punished. Condemnation exists. Punishment is everlasting. Conditionality exists. Love is therefore, you must. Superiority exists. Knowing and meeting the conditions renders me superior. And lastly, ignorance exists. I do not know these are illusions. So this will be for you for the near future. We can undo the effects of these illusions, choose communion with God, and experience true happiness. Stop denying God and deny who I believe that I am. Grant God admission into my heart. Stop time of separation. Go with the time of unification. Main message, we are all one. The idea that we are not one is an illusion. Illusions have a purpose, and humans intuitively know why, but have forgotten, because forgetting is part of the illusion. Our culture at the House of Ra leads the vanguard. I have come to this moment to remember myself. The failure to receive the message, even though we have heard, causes all pain, misery, and suffering. I've got a little bit of time left, and I think there's one more selection left. Okay, I want to save that one for the end. I hate to be, the Master told me to let it come from the heart, but I spent 4 nights and days writing those 12 pages, and it does come from the heart. It's just that I had to put it all together for myself. What is this? Why are these things happening? Why is this stuff following me? It doesn't matter. All I need to know is to go through it. It might seem like a scary roller coaster ride, but so what? I thank God for my Kula group, because they get buck naked with the truth. The Master knows what he's doing. I really am open to all the things that the Master is doing for us. And this is the opportunity for me to make it through my particular crossroad. He said also to mention grace, the grace of crisis. So he said, yeah, so since your whole life seems to be dissolving away from you, and you feel like you tell me that you feel like you're dying, he said, yes, that's what we're doing. We're dying while we're living. And that's surely what's going on with me, because all the things that I'm attached to are dying around me. And if I sit and make the effort to meditate, because I do not meditate, meditation happens through the Master, the grace of God. I forgot what I was going to say. But this, he said, die to live. So I went to Die to Live and got a few things from there. Grace, question 365 and question 366. Master, if we have no love and we have no devotion and we have no desire to meditate, how do we come to the Master? Wrong question. If we had devotion, no desire for meditation, we would have to come to the path. We wouldn't have to come to the path at all. The one who pulled us to the path will also give us all things. He has forgotten us after pulling us to the path. He has not forgotten us after pulling us to the path. He is still there within us. I didn't mean to read that one, but it's apropos. When we are attending to meditation, can it be a problem to feel that we are putting in an effort in meditation and that we are feeding our own ego? In other words, who makes the effort in meditation? Is it the real we, or is it the Master who is actually doing the meditation? Well, from a higher point of view, it is all the Lord's grace that we are attending to meditation. But here at this level, we feel as though we are putting in an effort to achieve our object. He's the one who is pulling us from within. He's the one who is creating that desire in us to meditate. He's the one who is giving us that atmosphere and those circumstances and environments in which we can build our meditation. He worships himself in us. So you can say, I am doing the meditation provided you're doing it. But when you really do it, then you won't say, I am doing it. I only comes when we don't do it. When we truly meditate, then I just disappears. Then we realize his grace. That for him, how could we ever think or even attend to it? Then there is no I. There is nothing but gratefulness, everything in gratitude. Then we know our insignificance. The more we attend to our meditation, the nearer we are to the goal. The more we realize our insignificance. Well, why doesn't the Master just take us up? Why do we have to go through all this meditation? How do you know the Master is not taking you up? Do you think your meditation is taking you up? Nobody's meditation is taking him up to the Father. It's all absolutely wrong. It's only the Lord and the Master who are uprooting us from here and taking us to that level. If anybody says, I can reach back to the Father by my effort, by my meditation, he's wrong. And that's the crux of what I really wanted to say in that. Also, the quality of discipleship and surrender. He mentioned that to me. He said, make sure that you give them some of that food. I want myself to surrender absolutely and unconditionally to the Master. But I do not know how to develop this absolute love and devotion for the Master, because I find that sometimes I am not as much devoted to the Master as I ought to be. I want to be exclusively devoted to the Master. What should I do for that? Well, brother, the main question is how to strengthen our love. The only way we strengthen love is by meditation. There is no other way, because the love which we get by experience cannot be compared to any other type of love. Intellectual love is all right. Emotional love, which is influenced by other people, is all right. Any type of love is all right, but nothing surpasses the love of your own experience. And for that experience, meditation is necessary. You can build love and devotion only through meditation, not otherwise. Meditation builds everlasting love. And that is building on a rock and not on sand. So when we don't meditate, when we don't make the effort to sit, we're really cheating ourselves. In cheating ourselves, we cheat ourselves from the purpose that we were brought here in this life, for this moment, on this path. We have had the grace to achieve what most of mankind would like to achieve in this lifetime, and not having to stretch it out. That's grace. I need to have true gratitude and know that I can't wait to get to do some meditation, because that's going to bring me closer to my truth. Because if not, we're going to die. No doubt, we are going to die. But I don't want to die in this condition. And if I've got somebody, if I've got the sun god, and yeah, I skipped that, but that's the 5 jewels. If I've got the master, then I've got everything in the world to work with. All I need to do is get rid of this that I'm attached to. And God is doing that for me, and I'm complaining and crying because I want to hold on to it. That's what I identify with. He's doing it right here, right now, right here, right now, and I'm complaining about life at the crossroads. He's doing exactly what he wishes to do for me. If not, we can die in a condition that most of the world will end up dying in. And that's why I guess I put we are the vanguard. And like most saints, Jackie Robinson, when he integrated the baseball team, he had to go through all that segregation and mess for years. He could have responded by saying, hey, these actions are improper. But he didn't. He held fast, and he did his job, and he made a whole inroad for a whole baseball league to be integrated. And many other saints and sages have gone through what we have said that we will pledge our lives to go through. So in that way, the path must be the first and primary thing that we do, and all other things are incidental. That doesn't mean that we won't have a life. It means we'll have a life in perspective. And for this last part, I just want to say that to one of our brothers in the house who's not with us, was on a parallel path that I was on. His crossroads were very similar to mine. And I want to play this last song in remembrance of him, in remembrance of us.
Open eyes, that we may see, to follow thee, Lord, grant us thy loving
And now I'll take questions.
I want to thank you for sharing and for communicating the message that I was trying to give yesterday in the group. Thank you.
Wonderful job, Savaka. I know that you are very much in love with Eckhart Tolle. His teachings, which mirror so closely the Master's teachings. And as you spoke of your life battles, I can see how his message is reverberating, and you're now seeing the beauty of that. I'd like you to talk a little bit about how that message has helped you to develop more of an acceptance of your life at the crossroads.
Oh,
The message of the Master.
okay. Okay, the message of the now that Sister Bibi Dasa turned me on to and affected me with. The bottom line is that we deal with the future and we deal with the past on a day-to-day basis. Expectations of what you think that you might want or what you think that you're expecting to have, and the gnashing of teeth about that, or the past reflections of things that you have no control about. And as life has been tumbling to me like that, I've been looking at it, and it's like a roller coaster ride. So that roller coaster ride, at one moment I'm screaming, well, another moment I'm okay, and then all of a sudden I get a down, oh! So to minimize all that, my practice to stay in the now keeps me away from those things as they present themselves to me. And that helps keep me calm and not run around crazy and reactive.
And I just wanted to say, I also feel that way. And it's so interesting that Eckhart Tolle's message of the now is just what the Master's been teaching us, staying in the process.
Yeah.
It's the exact same thing.
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you if, in your heart now, in regards to the crossroads position, do you feel convicted to stay the course that you're currently engaged in?
Like I told the Master, I don't have any choice.
Hello.
Life is coming to me, the getting rid of my car, having to go to court, all this stuff. These things are presenting themselves to me, so I don't even have a choice anymore. All I can do is go through it, experience life as it is, and go through it. And know that I've got my support here in the house, in the Master. And if I'm true to myself, I'll sit the way I'm supposed to sit and do the things I'm supposed to do.
So that's like a kind of surrender.
It's a surrender.
All right.
Okay.
Well, if that's all, maybe we can sit for a minute. Rasheka?
Shake him, I have an announcement to make on behalf of the master. He will be here, but he's running late, and so he has asked Sardar-Ji to entertain us or present us with some of the teachings, the gist of the Dharma. Sardar-Ji.
Shake. Well, we all know that it's prerequisites to be initiated on the path, and the master system have always said that it's a few things that we need to do prior to coming for initiation. One is that we have to lead a clean and moral lifestyle. And the reason for all of these things here, the moral lifestyle, is basically so we can be honest and, you see, be good citizens and things like that. If we're not married, then we need to get married or just be in a committed relationship. We just can't date everybody. So right off the top, they want us to check a lot of that kind of behavior, that promiscuous and, just running around and sexing everybody or whatever. The second one, and I don't know if they're in the right order, I haven't did this in a while now. I wasn't expected to be up here, but drugs and alcohol. And the reason for that is because it contaminates the mind and it distorts the thoughts. So we cannot use drugs and alcohol and pursue the path because it blocks clarity, and you have to have a clear mind to practice sadhana. The diet, meats and eggs and things of that nature, we're not allowed to eat those things because it affects your consciousness and it creates karma. So the master and them always say that we have to do those things to minimize the karma, and it affects the consciousness, so you're not able to really concentrate. And it's also another practice of ahimsa, harmlessness. And they try to give us these things at the outset because these things, you see, are counterproductive to your ego. We usually is born and bred on meats and things like that, and we used to pleasurizing ourselves with drugs and alcohol, so they start working on the ego right away to break some of these attachments. What did I say? It's one more I'm missing below. What I do? No, it's not a reprieve. I did the morality, right? I did drugs and alcohol, the diet, and you have to study the Dharma, of course. So those are the things that we had to do in order to be initiated. I think they're little things, I don't think they're really big things to do if you're really serious about the pursuit of God realization. I mean, for the love of God, you can give up eggs and meat, you see, and fish and things of that nature. If it could bleed or run, we don't need to eat it. And, it's ultimately it's for our own good, you see. And, it's really surprising that, they say those things about meats and things like that because you find some people still eating the meat. Even after they took the vow not to eat the meat, they still eat it. Eggs and things with egg products in it and meat products in it, and they still eat it. And they don't understand, or we don't understand, that these things are a part of the process, that we can't eat these things because they interfere with the process. And when we slip and do these things, we're thinking that, you see, we still can achieve anything spiritual by doing it, and we just really is fooling ourselves. I mean, we break the laws of morality. We want to sneak around. We want to date. Of course, you know, when I came to the path, I was young, you know, like my niece. You know, I was young and, you know, wasn't married, and I like girls like me, so I'm in a dilemma now. You know, that's a tough thing, but you see, you had to stick with that because the gurus and the masters is trying to develop some kind of control in your life. You have to become disciplined in some areas of your life in order to start training your mind here. It's about disciplining your mind. And we have to study. So, you know, I think that's what we still do. I mean, I always study. I think that's a part of the coolest system now, that every day we should study something because you need to understand the teachings at a deep level. Otherwise, you know, how can you follow something you don't know about? So Baldwin asked me to get up here and just talk about the gist of the teachings because they counter-egoic practices, you know. And it started that process now of helping us to develop some self-control over some of our behavior and some of the conditions that we're born into. So it shouldn't be that hard. I mean, if you study and understand what the Dharma is offering, what the Guru is offering you, then that's little stuff. I know some people struggle with that. Everybody had a struggle with some aspect of the requirements of coming onto the path. You know, but over time, once you start to read and study the Dharma, you see that that's in small comparison to the goal that you will be getting out of it once you're able to give these things up. 2.5 hours of meditation every day, you see. Things like that is just here to help us. You know, we have to purify our mind and try to put ourselves in a position of receptivity to grace. That's all to our own benefit. I mean, it's not nothing that the gurus, I mean, it's not for the guru's sake, per se. You know what I'm saying? The Guru, and he have attained, we trying to duplicate that same experience. So, but I cannot say enough about the studying aspect. You know, I think that's the key, because that's going to inspire you. You see, that's going to keep you focused. There have been times when I haven't really studied the way that I should have studied, and I can see that my enthusiasm for the path starts to die out, you know. And if I'm not keeping company with the Sangha and the members of the Sangha, see that affects me. So those aspects of the Dhamma for our study, that means study within groups too. It don't have to be so much as you're reading the book. You know, it's that phone Satsang. You know, it's just meeting up. If we just at a restaurant just sitting around talking, I mean, anything like that that's gonna keep us inspired to, you know, to continue on with the practice, you know. So those are the essential aspects of it. And just to give us a chance to see if we can live this way of life. You know, you have to see if you can live this, because once you get initiated and become committed, and that's for a lifetime. That's like a marriage. You just don't jump in it because, you know, it sounds good and you want to be a part of it. And, you know, if you do it from that point of view and you're running off emotions, then you're going to fall to the wayside. You're going to slip. You see, you're going to eat some meat. You're going to slip to a drink or whatever when you feel like it's a time for celebration, a birthday or a new job or whatever. You see, you let yourself off the hook, and you see, because that's what we used to. We like to celebrate things, you know. So unless we really become committed to these things, then, you know, sooner or later, the emotion's going to run out. So, you know, like I said, at the beginning, it's got to be a strong desire to want to do this thing based on your study and research about the teachings. It took me, I waited almost 2 years, if not more than 2 years for initiation. So unlike a lot of you all got initiated in 6 months, I wish I could. I had turned down twice. Now, I was too young, but I still had to go through the same process, being young as I was, everything still applied to me, So I still had to do the toe-teeter thing, and all of that for that period of time. But, I had studied enough for the Dharma, and Belong and Baldwin was my sponsors at that time, so, I stayed around, and I stayed hooked up. Even when I wasn't with them, I made meetings. I went to meetings on my own, doing lunch break and stuff like that, because I knew I still had to be around the teachers. And studying the teachers is so important. I was around a lot of older guys, a lot of older Satsangis, back in the day. And that was the thing that kept me focused. Otherwise, I would have picked up some more meat. I got me a beer, 'cause I love basketball, and all my friends, I like to drink juice after the game. They want to go get a case of beer. So in order for me to not do a lot of those things and still stick to the requirements, I had to have that kind of company. I had to stay inspired, by reading that Dharma. Otherwise, I would have slept. But the thing that I was honest about, I wouldn't write Maharaji and say, I haven't been in. I ain't just been sexing girls over here, girls over there, any of those things. I was honest about that, I didn't lie about that part. If I say I study, that means I study. Now, I'm not eating meat, at that time for initiation, I met all those requirements, So that was something that I wanted, and I came in a different era than y'all came, But to me, just to lie to the Guru about it, which I couldn't even fathom that. They say I'm not going to do this and then do it and think the Guru don't know. I always associated Maharaji with God. I never synced him or thought about him being anything other than that. And I know God is omniscient, omnipotent. So it never crossed my mind to try to cheat, or lie about anything. Even though his body was 8,000 miles away, I never used that as a strategy for initiation. I used my marriage to get married as a reason for it, but, to fulfill the morality part of the path, but not to cheat like that, I didn't want to, disrespect Maharaji like that or bring him down to my level. So I had to keep him high, and I had to keep my seeking high also. My desires for initiation pure, not trying to trick them, I know some people say, yeah, Bob, when I'm not eating meat, and they lying, and he initiated and still give them 6 months and they still eating meat, you know what I'm saying, or they slipping and they drinking, or, they having sex outside of marriage and things. Trust me, the Guru know all of that stuff. He don't reveal it because that's, he would never do that, but he be knowing. And see, I always had that kind of respect for Maharaji where I couldn't do that. I would not do that. It never even crossed my mind to say I'm not doing something and I'm doing it. But those requirements are necessary. They're necessary. We take on the animal characteristics when we eat meat. And you notice, you'll see how your lust go up, how you're angry. You're always angry about something. You're easily agitated. It affects your mind, your consciousness, if you can really see what it's doing to you. And the same thing with alcohol. It alters your states of mind, your moods, all of that. So we know that that's not good, even though some people in some paths actually use drugs, You see, to enhance their spiritual condition. It's crazy as that sound, but people do and have tried to use drugs and alcohol for spiritual purposes. And the morality thing about sex and all those things outside of marriage, we know that it takes a lot of energy to meditate. I mean, we meditate, so we know if we having sex, we know how much energy that you're releasing and how that affects your body, right? So all the advice that the gurus is giving you is for our own behalf. We're going to need that wasted energy. You see, the practice. And so if we can see those things from that respect, you see, even now, even though we're in a committed relationship, you see, we still but to conserve that energy. It's just don't supposed to be just, put out there like that, cause even though you're in a committed relationship, marriage, whatever, you still need that energy for practice. And so that doesn't change. It still should be conserved, And the morality goes a long way. You find yourself in these relationships, then you're still doing the same thing. You're lying. You know what I'm saying? You're not being honest. You still ain't living the morality part that the path requires. When you're doing those kind of things, being dishonest or whatever. And if we're not studying, see, we still is not really making the requirements of what was offered in the beginning, prior to initiation. So, we all been blessed with it. I know I didn't deserve initiation, Now I know that. And out of that, I'm grateful. Just knowing that even though I met the requirements, you see, I still knew deep down that I didn't deserve that. You see, in the way. But sometimes when you get a thing and you really ain't really cried about it, you know what I mean? Mine was a little different, you see. I don't think Baldwin turned down nobody that by law didn't present to him. And I know he done told y'all that a lot of times. If it went for his love for the law, there'd been a lot of people not initiating. A lot of them. You see, haven't met the 6 months requirements. You see, that Baldwin knew that their minds were messed up. They wouldn't even understand this Dharma. You see, you got to have clarity of thought and mind to interpret the Dharma, to understand the teachers, and he knew that. It's just his grace, his love, you see, his mercy. So we should remember that we didn't deserve it, and we didn't have it coming because we met the requirements either. That doesn't determine your initiation. It's a part of it, to see what you're willing to do, if you can make the sacrifices, if you can live this way of life for life. You see? But ultimately, it's all grace. It's nothing more than that. It's a lot of people that come around and, they like the path, they like what the Guru was saying, but, you see, they don't pursue it. So it's God that gives us all of these things, the desire and all of that. You see, it's all grace from top to bottom. Even your desires to come on the path was given by the Guru. And you see, we can't say we did anything for that, because now we're taking away from his will. And the Guru's will cannot be conditioned on what we're doing. Otherwise, it's going to be free will, right? And it's a great thing to be initiated. I mean, my initiation, when I got initiated, you see, that was real celebration. Real celebration. Because finally I've been given an opportunity to bring all suffering to an end, recover self-recognition. And that's profound when you think about it, that out of all these different forms of God in this creation, they chose these forms to recover that recognition. Then there's people in the world that will never get the opportunity. They'll live and die in that condition. Live and die. Not able to make the sacrifices, you see, to get initiated. They don't want to give up their stuff. And so they miss. But we was able to sacrifice. As hard as it was to stop eating meat for some of us, or drinking or whatever, or confirm my life to a committed relationship, you see, or discipline yourself to study. And, you know, that requires some time that you could have otherwise been doing outside somewhere, you know. So these things still apply to us, you know. Sometimes we feel since we got initiated, we don't have to worry about that no more. The morality and studying and watching what you eat and the food that make you slothful and things like that. But it's that foundation thing that lasts the longest. You have to stick with the fundamentals, and that's how we be successful on the path. It's by sticking to the fundamental things, and they'll lead to the other things, the greater things on the path. But sacrificing is going to always be there. We can't get around that. So we shouldn't even look for it, you see, because coming to the path means sacrifice. That's exactly what it is, you know. And we had to get with that, because sometimes I feel we don't see the path like that, you know. We think once we get initiated and whatever, then you see, sacrificing is over. No, it just begun. So he starts us off with, okay, give up meat. You have to make that sacrifice. You see, give up dating all these girls and just, you know, running around and, you see, get in a committed relationship. He even reduced it from the level where Maharaji was initiating people. You know, Bhagwan said, okay, fine, just get in a relationship. Maharaji said, go get married. You see, so even he brought that down a little bit, you see, from the standard that we was initiated up on. So that's grace, that's love. But if you didn't know that, you would think that you was mean that standard of morality, all right? But see, now you know. That was all compassion, all love. And so these are the gist of the teachings. I mean, we'll have better health and all of that, but you know, those conditions wasn't placed on us for better health, placed on us for a better mind, for a purification of the mind, the body-mind. And I never really looked at it at the outset years ago of what was really going on when Maharaji made all those statements. I mean, he added on stuff. I mean, he was like, you know, wait till you're 25 to get initiated. You know, I just couldn't really understand that to save my life, you know, going through the studying and meeting all them requirements and things like that. But looking back in hindsight, you know, I really understand why he did that and said that, because you had to had your mind made up based on the experience in life. And being so young, I didn't have those kind of experiences that other people may come to the path. You know, bad relationships, you know. I didn't even know what was suffering. Well, I could not put my finger on what was suffering. You know, I hear people talk about it, but I was like, man, what is that? You know, so I never had those things to draw me into the path. But just looking back on the morality and all the requirements, you know, and lining up with all of those things, it make you a certain kind of person, you know. It's supposed to make you a man or a woman of your own word, because I didn't write and have people checking up on me. I mean, even Balaam and Baldwin didn't do that. They didn't come check on me and, well, is you eat meat or what, you know. I can't even remember them even asking me stuff like that, because I try to be a man of my word to them, you see. And if I did slip up and do it, I tell them, you know. If I had done that, I would have told them. Yeah, well, you know, I did this and I did that. So when you're able to follow these requirements, you see, without the guru and checking on you, he creating character in you at the same time. I know he always say, I'm not going to check up on you, see if you're meditating, none of that stuff, you know. Whether he know it or not, he's not going to press you, you see. But it creates character. If you can do it and do it with honesty, you see, then you will do it wherever. You don't have to be around us or anything. You know, it's outside of the Sangha that you will start to see the products of your own effort in meeting those requirements. You see, when you were by yourself and you told the guru that, hey, I ain't ate no meat, then all of a sudden now you see some fish or you smell some beef, you know, and impulse starting to hit you, you see, and you can resist that. You see, because now you got character. There used to be a time you just smelling this here, you run at it. And then say, I ain't, you know, and lie about it. And you want to pick up something to drink, you know, you want to celebrate it. But if you've been honest, you see, you'll resist that. That'll become part of your character, a part of your word. That, man, look, I'm not going to do this, not because nobody's watching me, you know what I'm saying? Because we know when somebody's watching you, you see, you can play that off real nice, right? You see, but it's when nobody's around that you need to be able to do those things. You see, and that, for me, it builds your will and all of that. You see, so it's a lot of dynamics going on with these requirements. You see, it's making you spiritually and mentally strong. It's building will and willpower. You see? And you know, Baldwin said that a lot of times. He say, you know, we just don't have no willpower. You know? As Christ said, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. It's like that. And so in their wisdom, they start working on all of that. You know, it's a multi-dynamic thing. You know, it's working on different aspects, you see, of our own being. It's doing a lot of stuff. So when we are meeting these requirements, you see, for initiation, it's doing a whole lot of other things unconsciously, because, you know, we don't really see those things happen, but we can feel the effect. You see, you used to be gravitated to a favorite meat item. You see, but now you have willpower, it don't even faze you. But you never think that, you see, that willpower to resist has been built now. Where, you see, there's no impulse even to reach out for it no more. In fact, you see, it started to disgust you. When you really see it and smell it, you know, and understand what you're seeing and smelling, you see. But prior to then, you had no willpower. Same thing with alcohol, you know, or drugs or whatever. You know, that it runs through your mind, you know, in the beginning. But over a period of time, you develop the willpower to resist that, you see, or to run around and cheat or whatever, you see. You develop at some level some type of willpower in the process. So it's a lot of dynamics that's going on. And as you can see, that's a purification period. You're purifying yourself of the old behaviors. Y'all understand what I'm saying? So it's a good thing if you could see it from that point of view. You see, at the beginning we feel it like a loss. right? We have to give up something, and that hurts to give up something that you like, you know? And that what causes to cheat here, you know, because you don't want to give it up. So, you all know what I'm talking about. You all know what I'm talking about, right? So if a time arises when you see our morality is getting in the way, you see, of our commitment, then we know. You see, we got to pull back from that, you see. And we don't relax the conditions that the Guru has placed on initiation. That we sometimes we do that over a period of time, you see. And that weakens us. Y'all notice that? Whenever and whoever ever done that, that weakens you. It weakens your will. And that be our own downfall after that. Because it's hard to build that up. Because now you're full of shame, you see. And then you start practicing avoidance and all of that. You know, you shame yourself in your own eyes, and you know you can't even be around your people. Not even the Guru. And that takes away from the whole process. So I just, you know, want to just share my insights into the whole dynamics of the requirements. You see, I don't know if anyone else see it the way I see it, but over the years, you know, this is what I was able to see out of these requirements and how they aid you in your own spiritual development. Instead of just looking at it like, it's something that I need to do to get this, and not really looking at the real implications behind it, you know, and the benefits of my own being, you know, as the outcome of following these instructions. So, you know, I'd like everybody to just keep that up front with them, because over the years we relaxed that, you know. I know I have in the past, you know. I was initiated in 82, you know, and it's a long time to, you see, get relaxed in that and not put so much emphasis on it, you know. We pick up products, you know, we don't even bother to check the labels or anything, because in the back of our minds, you see, we don't want to know if these things in there we shouldn't have, egg whites or whatever, you see. So instead of checking, we don't check so that we can go ahead and console ourselves by indulging, you know, and things like that, you know, when we don't really want to give up, you see, and meet the requirements of the diet. So we have to always check that. You see, that's the ego thing. It still want to hold on to some likes. You know, we don't want to give up them likes. And so we have to be aware of those things, and we still have to fight against all of that. You know. I know Radasi good at that. She lets me know, because I don't know them 13-letter words. She'll tell me, Sardar-Ji, don't not that. You know, I thank her for it, you know, because I can't even pronounce these words, you know. So, you know, you have to be diligent in that. I mean, sometimes we take for granted that, you know, a lot of these products, you know, doesn't have eggs in them and things like that, but you find out that a lot of them do. You know, I can remember, you know, when we used to eat fry pies and they didn't have egg whites in them, you see. Then they started coming out with egg whites in them. And just by habit of picking them up, you know, knowing that they didn't have egg whites in them when I first picked them up, that now I could just, you know, continue to eat it. You see, so you have to, every now and then, glance at the ingredients on the box so you'll know if they ain't changed the way that they producing these products. Because you know, it's going to eventually affect you. You see what I'm saying? And you know it's bad when you know they didn't change the product and and you still want to, you know, and you still want to pick it up because you ain't got attached to that. You see, and you like the way that tastes, and man, you know, things like that. But the diet is, it's real important. I mean, just think about it. How long do meat last in your system? 4 days or whatever before it can be processed out. And it's real heavy. It drains all of your energy. In the vegetarian diet, I mean, what we should be trying to do, and especially me myself, eat more green products. The things that's going to give you energy. Good also be on me about salads. I'm like, good, I don't like salads. I eat them. I like them, but I don't like eat them every day like some people do. But I do know that the energy is in them kind of products. That the sun hits. And it's direct energy into it. The fuel, the energy for Saturn. So I had to look at things in that sense now. So I'm getting better, good. I ain't where you are right now, but I'm getting there. So the diet plays a major role in whatever. Even if you, like most of us, we're on the vegetarian diet, but we eat vegetarian food, and we defeat the process, right? Because it still takes energy to process the food. So it goes right back to diet. Even when we're on the diet, the amount that we are eating. So like I said, it's all kind of ways to look at this thing. You see, once we got initiated, you see, we feel, hey, we ain't eating no eggs and we ain't eating no meat, but you zone up on it, so you're overeating now. You see, and you too tired to meditate now, because your energy has been used to process all that vegetarian food you've been eating. And you can console yourself, say, at least I ain't been eating no meat, but man, you falling asleep in meditation. You just don't have enough energy, or, like I said, you marry, you're into that committed relationship, and you want to have sex every night. Now, how you going to meditate like that? Where you going to have the strength and energy to practice? So all these things has been given, and, for us to control and discipline some of these energy and understand how the energy is flowing through the body. So it's all kind of ways to look at this thing, and all kind of different levels to look at it from the point of view where it's going to help you spiritually, And that may sound, even the morality of things, but that's a condition. All the gurus say you ain't making no progress till you line that baby up. Now you can go do all this other stuff you want to do, but if you ain't got that lined up, forget about it. You forget about it. And it kind of, hit a person like, man, why I got to go and be committed and all of this here to make spiritual progress? Well, that's the condition the guru puts on it. And you have to meet all of those requirements, then some. But if we can't meet that, we got a long way to go. We got a very long way to go. And we start seeing things. You see, even when it comes to that diet, like I said, that egg whites. Yeah, I know it's been, changed, but man, So when we having lung guard and things of that nature, you see in this products that, we used to eat around here. I mean, if you're gonna put it on that table, at least take the time to read the ingredients, because I don't want to pick up nothing off the table with egg whites in, because you picked it up last year and it didn't have any in there. You see, so we have to be conscientious about what we're bringing within the house. You see, whatever you're going to bring, make sure that it meets the requirements of the diet, and just don't bring it in. So I ain't talked about the Moors. I don't know, I never talked this long about it before. But I thought, it'd be good to just look at it from a different point of view, instead of the traditional sense of just looking at him's a part of it and things like that. Of course, that's a benefit from it. You become less aggressive, and all of those things. But just to give a different look from where I'm sitting there looking at it. I don't know, have anything else to add to that?
See if somebody have a question.
The law said, anybody have a question?
You secret shit.
I have a question, just a comment. You're saying that you were able to combat your appetite. But for many people that come to the path, I think we have to look at the psychological impact of taking on these things. And one is that a lot of people are just addicted to food. And, you know, it's an addiction. And we just have to be aware of that. And if you're not aware of that, just like when we sit each day, if we're not aware that we have to wage jihad, then we won't be prepared for what comes while we're sitting. The same is true for diet. Many people, when they decided they wanted to become initiated, they're not aware of the strong hold that food has in their lives. And maybe they're able to make it through the 6 months, and then they have a relapse, just like with drugs. And it's all because they don't realize just how powerful food is in our lives. And when we see it on television, the advertising make it look so attractive. We have moments of weaknesses. And so I think if we see it as an addiction, and you were talking about being able to also look at the quantities of food, you know, because it's just another form of indulgence. It's, what's that, indulgence, consolation. For many of us, when we're going through things, oh, I'm going through this. So we drop our guard and let the food in.
Oh,
you know?
yeah, oh, yeah.
You know, so I think that it's very psychological is what I'm saying, and we can't dismiss the psychological effects of food because they're very, very powerful, powerful in our lives, and we just have to know that every step of the way. Because I don't know if the master said this or someone mentioned this once at a Satsang. Even for those of us who have been on the path for a very, very long time, some people still get drawn in by the smell of barbecue during the summer. I mean, it's almost like, you know, certain things you smell, you conjures up a time when you were comfortable. The same thing with food. Food has that same effect on us. And the smell of barbecue really gets some people, so that's good. And so I think that we just have to be aware of the power of it, and just because we've been able to make it through the 6 months or even a year, you know, we might get turned out again over some barbecue.
So all we can do is rely on a good sponsor. That's why they give us those sponsors, so that we can understand, you know, the requirements, right?
Like you said, he's on his way.
So I end it here, and I take my place back there in the peanut gallery, and I went on the route to come in and get a Satsang. I said,
tardiness, but I'm black. Case closed. Y'all understand. In the interest of time, I thought I would just make a few remarks. And where's Rani Kamari? Were we able to extend our time with? I tried. I didn't want to cheat you out of this one day, so I asked Sardar-Ji to say a few things in my absence. And of course, this morning, you all were treated to the incredible confessions of Savaka-Ji. So you should be full of satsang, or full of something at least. You know, I think it's not so much that we gather on these occasions for the sake of gathering information and so forth and so on, although that's certainly a part of it. But perhaps the most significant thing about coming together is that we are strengthened by each other's very presence, by the very fact that we have made it another month on the path. Those of us who have made the commitment to make God realization the focus of our life and living know firsthand how very difficult it is to keep such a lofty commitment. The path is difficult. And it requires so much sacrifice, so much discipline. In fact, the pursuit of God realization and self-discipline are concomitant phenomena. Where there's one, there's always the other. God realization is the outcome of self-discipline. Now, by self-discipline, I do not merely mean the ordinary and conventional use that that word have fallen into, but by self-discipline, I mean that process by which one transcends one's own ego. That is truly what is meant by discipline. You will note, without my not even having to point out, that there is a direct relationship between the word discipline and disciple. The disciple is merely someone who has entered into the ordeal that is discipline for the sake and love of God. So you can't pursue the path and not also practice self-discipline. And all of us know firsthand how hard that is. So it's only in the company of one another that we are aided by the force of our fellow practitioners to move deeper and deeper into the process of self-discipline and thus self-transcendence. So the company of other spiritual practitioners has been recognized as being a principal component in the pursuit of God realization. It is the company of other spiritual practitioners that provide you with that force from the outside that intervenes and set into motion the counter-egoic ordeal that is associated with true spiritual life and living. It is our fellow travelers on the path that challenges us in those very areas where we would not challenge our own self. And therefore, satsang has been understood to be an essential aspect of sadhana. Maharaj used to always say that satsang is like that fence that protects us from the negative forces that surrounds us. At some point in our life, we all truly realize that this place, this circumstance, this world that we are in, it's not paradise. It's not utopia. It is full of all kinds of people, forces, things that run counter to and are in opposition to the liberation of the soul. The world is like a gigantic plantation on which we are all enslaved. So we can't turn to the world to provide us with the extra impetus for practice that is so necessary if we are truly to engage the spiritual ordeal of self-discipline. We are only able to progress on this path by virtue of having the company of other practitioners. I'm reminded of one of the forms of greeting that is observed by all Sikhs. Some of you are familiar with the Sikh tradition. And in the Sikh tradition, the community of spiritual practitioners who have committed to living and practicing the spiritual process based on the teachings and argument of Guru Nanak refer to themselves as a Kasa. And in Sikhdom, there is a saying that has become the very way in which they greet one another. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa. Vaheguru Ki Fatah. It literally translates as God is one with the Khalsa, and victory to the wonderful Lord. This sentiment has been expressed by all great teachers. Did not Jesus himself say that where there are two gathered in my name, there am I also? A Khalsa, a Sangha, a Satsanga, that is a true Sangha. Because remember, you must enjoy the distinction between a conventional gathering of people who have an interest in spirituality. You must distinguish such groups from a Sangha. The former is simply a gathering of people who are basically seekers of information. They come together in search of information. They presume that the gathering of more information and insights into the teachings is equivalent to making spiritual progress. And of course, the mere gathering of information is not equivalent to real spiritual practice and living. The condition and goal of spiritual development is not a condition that can be achieved through thinking. In the pseudo-sangat, driven by the presumption that by gathering more and more information, having more and more insights into the Dhamma, by practicing logical analysis of the teachings, and then sharing that logical analysis with one another, it's being equal to God realization, is a fallacy. The only way to make spiritual progress is to do the practice as given. It is really about the relocation of attention beyond the limits of your own self-concerns. No fooling, no kidding. Therefore, in a Satsang, it's always about the practice and never about your opinion about the practice. It's about the practice. Now, of course, you see, beloveds, understanding the teachings at an intellectual level does serve some purpose. It is a part of the preparation for practice. But when you confuse the preparation for practice with the practice itself, this is where you err. All of this reading, all of this talking, all of your consideration with one another are merely forms of preparation. And you mistakenly presume that your deepening intellectual grasp of the teaching is somehow a sign that you're making spiritual progress. It is not spiritual progress. Perhaps you are entering a little deeper into the phase of preparation, but that is not equivalent to or a substitute for practice. And then you become deluded. And then you replace real practice with the presumption of what you think is equivalent to practice. So you tend to spend a lot more time talking about the practice than in actually practicing. But in the kasa, where there are two gathered in his name, a very different phenomenon takes place. The whole relationship of those belonging to a Satsang is very different. It is characterized by a profound love, a profound tenderness, and a genuine concern for the spiritual well-being of one another, to the point that a brother will lay down his life for his spiritual brother. If that is required for the sake of his brother's fulfilling the spiritual journey. There's a real relationship that exists in a community of practitioners that is easily distinguished from the relationship that exists between a group of people who are simply involved in the quest for more spiritual information. In pseudo-sanghas, you see, beloved, there is no commitment to one another. In a pseudo-sangha, you will find that the members are always breaking their words to one another. Haven't you seen it? Don't you know that so? When they say they will show up for seva, you can't count on it. When they say, call me at this time, you can't count